was like, I thought I was just dying to go into heaven when I got to the Anthropology Museum in Colorado. And so I had Runner take my pictures from every head so no one could say that you didn't really see that. And also so you could get an idea of the proportions. And I don't know, they look African to me. I'm an anthropologist.
You're right, you aren't an anthropologist. Warren Barber is, though, and he has studied Mesoamerica. And he refuted claims such as this one in an article called Robbing Native American Cultures, Van Sertima's Afrocentricity and the Olmecs. I definitely recommend you read that article. You must realize that the Olmec features on the colossal heads are predominantly flattened, so their features cannot be claimed as anatomically accurate, just an approximation, a flattened approximation at that. So, from the front, facial features look broader, more exaggerated, which is exemplified by the larger-than-life eyes and, yes, the larger lips and nose, which doesn't mean that they weren't people with thick lips and wide noses, but that these features are ultra-exaggerated in the features on the colossal heads. One thing that is also constant is the rounded face and the big jaws or pouchy cheeks, characteristics that are not common in African populations that tend to be more slender and angular, especially in their jawline, and also tend to be dolichocephalic or long-headed. Sure, we could find some uncommon examples to break the mold, but remember, in the Olmecs this was the rule, not the exception. And like in many Native American populations, this is the rule, not the exception. More importantly, we do actually have a life-size bust that was found of an Olmec ruler that still shows the same broad lips and flared nose, the cheeks, but the features are distinctively Native American, and the hair is distinctively straight. Mesoamericans are very varied in looks, and you will find faces with thick lips and broad noses, without admixture from Africa. These faces have existed there since the earliest migrations to the continent. In fact, if we go back and look at the oldest skull ever found in the Americas, it was Peñon woman. Of course, ignore the skin color, as that cannot be shown based on a skull. And then a little bit later, in South America, you have Lucia, which is the oldest one found in that area. And that one is actually been compared to Australoid skulls and actually Eskimo skulls as well. It's about right in between. And you can still see the similar features in people alive today.
Again, here's some more artifacts that were distinctly African, and I'm talking about in the head shape and the facial features.
The problem with those figurines is not that they're fake. Some have claimed that they're fake, but I don't think they are. The problem is that they're not dated. Von Withenau bought them off people. He never recorded what dig they came from. He never recorded what evidence he had of their authenticity. All we know is that they're terracotta or mud figurines, and that they were found in the Veracruz area. Now that was the region where a lot of the slaves were brought over, so they easily could have been made by slaves after Columbus had arrived, and more than probably that's what it is. What disappointed me even more than the whole assumption that Native Americans couldn't look like their own sculptures and some form element had to be present was that you really didn't go much into the history of Afro-descent people in Mexico except to discuss castes. You completely missed out on the African presence in Mexico, it seems. For example, you forgot to mention a man named Yanga. Gaspar Yanga rebelled from slavery and formed the first free town in all of the Americas. And it's a town that celebrates African culture to this very day. You also failed to mention Vicente Guerrero, the second president of Mexico, who was of Afro descent. Or while you were in Veracruz, you could have visited the families of Creoles, descended from the Creoles who escaped racialism in Louisiana and moved to Veracruz. Or the fact that Afro-Mexicans in Costa Chica and Veracruz exist. Or the fact that during slavery, the Underground Railroad also went to Mexico from the U.S. Or during the era of the Negro Leagues, African Americans could go to play in Mexico without having to play in a separate team. Or the fact that Buffalo Soldiers also went to Mexico. Or that there were famous singers of Mexican and African descent like Doña La Negra, Kalimba, Veronica Conca, or that Pérez Prado from Cuba modernized mambo playing in Mexico, not in New York, or that there was a congressman named Joaquin Henricks. There's a lot of history between Africa and Mexico. You just didn't cover it well. Well, maybe next time.